Welcome to the Gearbox Podcast, where we dive deep into the dynamic world of automotive repair and ownership. I'm your host, Jimmy Purdy, an experienced technician turned shop owner with a passion for sharing insights, stories, and conversations with industry leaders. This is the Gearbox Podcast.
I can hear myself.
I don't want to go too Antique Roadshow on you.
Yeah.
You can hear that background.
Totally, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Should we hold our hands over the...
That's a little better like there, huh?
That sounds good if you get in real close, right?
Yeah, I'm going to turn the gain down. Look, I can slowly make the people disappear. I wish I could do that every day. No, I'm just kidding.
The people in your head?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I can just make them quiet just with a turn of a switch like that. We'll just have to talk. We'll just have to turn it up real loud in post-production.
Right.
As long as you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. This is rad, huh?
I don't want to get too far away.
Welcome to the Gearbox.
That's right.
Should I be in really close, or is out here okay? This is about the same.
That sounds good, yeah.
Yeah.
The Antique Roadshow, man, that's fantastic. What do you have next that you're going to display?
That's right.
You know what? Leanne's got a friend that she came into town and or had a friend that was selling something out of town to that guy, and I guess they had I guess he's kind of a dick. I don't know. She was all excited and had this relic, and he's like, "This isn't worth anything."
Ooh, that sounds like a little off-camera moment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I didn't want anything to do with her, so she was pretty upset about it. But anyway, enough about the Antique Roadshow.
Yeah, enough about the Antique Roadshow.
Let's talk about Apex 2024.
Welcome to Apex.
This is rad, huh?
Pretty cool place.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming in.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
Day number 1, so you're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Well, we've already walked around a couple hours, so I'm disoriented and confused, but it's pretty exciting.
Somehow I can see how many steps I've had, and I'm sure that it is many, many times my normal day already. And it's 4 o'clock.
It's enough, huh?
Yeah.
It's enough. We can take a seat.
All right.
A couple frequents, I guess we'll call them now. So David Boyd and Parker.
Parker Branch.
Yes. Had a mind fart there for a second. It happens. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was you are now a coach. I don't think we talked about that last time we were at Mars.
No, I don't think we did.
Were you facilitating then, or was that on the table?
I believe, by the time I was at Mars, I did actually have some one-on-one coaching clients for the Institute. Let Cecil know towards the end of last year that I was thinking that might be a path later on for me. And they immediately jumped on and said, well, let's get it doing now. And I was a little bit of, whoa. But, so I got a chance to shadow Cecil for quite a few months the end of last year and start sharing some of what they taught me and what I've learned from him as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, one of the big things with communication, right, Dave, is we talk about this when we talk, was coaching and how important it is, and not so much that, but all the different aspects. And I think that's kind of one of the lost things with a lot of shop owners is it's just one thing you do and that fixes everything.
Right.
And it's all the different episodes that I've had on the show here is it just kind of encapsulates all the different aspects that it takes and how you have to really what's your take on coaching?
Well, I think it's always happening. Coaching is ongoing, constantly being teachable, whether you're an owner, an advisor, a technician. Constantly being teachable is super important. It's a mindset. It's important. I think people that have that mind, they've made up in their mind, I'm going to be looking for something to learn. Those are the coachable people. So then those that seek out coaching and training are going to continuously get better, and those who don't, ultimately wind up being left behind in some way. So consistency is the key to any type of coaching, whether it's advisor training or if it's personal development, business coaching. Maybe I'm a shop owner and I'm participating. So consistency and being involved is super important. For advisor training, consistency of training is super important. Maybe it's the things that I touch, which has a lot to do with the phone calls. And if it's just one, sit down every 6 months, that turns into more of a beating than it does a meeting. So it's important to have consistency built in around that so that everybody understands, hey, we're signing up to be accountable to this. We're going to focus on this for a moment of time. We're going to learn something. We're going to move on and do better.
Do you think coaching for automotive, do you think it needs to be specifically for automotive? Or do you think a lot of owners need just like life coaching? You know what I mean? Like the one thing I've really been thinking about.
Great question.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, does it really need to be automotive like, do you just need therapy, man?
The therapist is in, right?
Wow. Now I'm starting to wonder who my next therapist is going to
be. There we go. You ask a great question. It's a challenging question, and I don't. The answer I have is I don't think it needs to be automotive specific in all facets. You need to have industry specific training. But can I give an example of a book?
Absolutely.
All right. So I read a book that. It wasn't even really a business book. It was Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Have you guys read this book?
No,
I know who Chris Voss is, though.
Yeah, so former FBI negotiator.
Yep. I watched his masterclass. So
perfect. Same, because his masterclass was basically his book. So each of his 10 or 12 classes was a chapter of the book.
Yeah, the mirroring was something I really took a lot, and like I cling on to that. So I don't know if you pick up a lot, but I do. I like to do the mirroring exercise because it freaking works. And if you don't know what the mirroring exercise is, go check it out. Go check out Chris Voss or read that book because it's like I haven't read the book, but the masterclass was fantastic.
So that I think is one example that comes to mind when you ask that question. Does it have to be industry specific? No, because there are so many different things for business development, personal development, interpersonal communication that aren't just tied to our industry. They're tied to life. And there are a lot of really, really talented people out there that have great things to teach, but they're not automotive. So if we're not looking outside of our sphere of automotive, we may never find those things.
Yeah, it seems like the more personal growth we have, whatever capacity that's in, the book you're talking about, the lessons that are in there, helping us be better people helps us participate in our industry and with our employees and our customers and people in our daily lives. Absolutely.
Yeah. So with your journey moving from running your shop, now you're teaching what you've been taught. What lessons have you been learned for yourself, right? Because I feel like that's a big one, right? Like you start learning more on your own when you start, because when you got to teach something, you really got to know what you're talking about.
No question. And it makes you step back. It's helped me look at myself and my business and my journey and maybe understand better, geez, this is where I was. A lot of the people that I'll be working with, I reflect back to my journey when it was at a place consistent with where they're at now. And I love to share, hey, these are some of the things that, I maybe felt those same challenges. And here are some of the things I might have done right, and here's some of the things I might have done wrong that helped me to grow and move on and share those things, and that's real rewarding.
What's your take, or what path do you like to really focus on? Because I know not all coaches are going to coach the same thing, right? And my take on it is hopefully they're taking the time to be selective with the clients they take on, right? Instead of just trying to fix anybody, because not everyone's going to mesh with your personality, right? What is it you find yourself more, I guess, excited about when it comes to coaching? The numbers, the culture, the management? Is it kind of all encapsulating?
Certainly a little bit of all of it. I like to see what the strength is of the client and help them embrace that maybe, and figure out, a lot
maybe
of these,
find a win for them first. To
sure.
Get them.
A lot of technicians turn shop owner, their biggest strength is in the shop.
Yeah.
And maybe they have, might have a client do their wife as a service advisor, and as a team, they're doing fairly well, and they know they need some growth, and they reach out to get some help, start coaching. And before you can start just adding, you might point out, hey, I think your strength is in the shop, so you need to be there for a little bit, and your wife's strength is up front, or whatever it is, vice versa. We need to take advantage of that to keep the business going, so we have some revenue, and then identify, hey, hire a tech, hire a lower level guy that you can teach and bring along and grow, and maybe you get a little bit more volume and you have a little bit more capacity to afford another technician. Then try to hire a little bit stronger tech to help your production, and same thing up front. If you have a strong advisor, or one of the spouses up front running the front, let's hire somebody that you can start training to take on that position to allow you some freedom to start working on the business.
So one of the big, you touched on one of the big ones was finding people to help, right? So we're all going through that. We all need staff, right? Like all of us. Is there a trend or something that you've noticed since you've taken on this role with shop owners, like one glaring mistake or one thing that you're constantly having to reinforce with your coaching clients? Is there anything in particular that you found?
Real important is setting expectations.
Okay.
So that employees or even customers, equally important when you're communicating with them, setting expectations so they understand how to do the job. What is the job? Defining it, setting standard operating procedures, SOPs, so that they can communicate with those people. Hey, this is what's going to make us great. This is what's going to make the customer feel well taken care of and want to come back and spread the word. So the communication of all that is it's paramount.
Yeah, that's a huge and all-encompassing, communication, right? That's like, we talk about that a lot, right?
I know a guy.
And then setting expectations. That's like, I think that touches home, right? Because that's the big one that I feel like I missed a lot, right? And I still do every day. And even though we say it and we talk about it, and I don't know if you have that problem where it's like you say it, then you go back home and you're like, oh shit, I should probably practice what I preach, right?
Absolutely.
A little bit. But it's really tough, right? Because it's like, well, every day is different. So like, how in the automotive industry can we set an expectation or a standard when the next day there's a new car, a new problem, or new something coming out?
Well, you said something earlier about an aha moment, or that whole deal, and I think a few years ago I kind of had one where I realized I was trying to travel and hit some different trainings and trade shows and gain information and knowledge, with the thought, okay, I'm gonna gain all this experience and ideas, and then I'm gonna go back to my team and I'm gonna let them know what I learned. And eventually I realized the value of getting training and experiences for the employees themselves, putting them in peer groups and training situations, was so much more valuable for their growth than me trying to come back home and share it with them.
Yeah. Without you, you can't share the excitement. Like when you're here and you're involved in what we're all doing and the connections we're all making, like we just can't explain that. We can't like go back and say, oh, I met all these really cool people and we're going to do all these new things. And everyone's like, oh, you're gone for a week. So we're trying to play catch up, and now you want to get back and make all these changes. Like, what the hell's going on around here?
Yeah, watch out. Here he comes with the whole books.
I heard that so many times when I come to these events. I'm like, no, I'm never going to be that guy. It just slowly happens, though. It's like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm that guy all of a sudden.
No doubt.
Welcome to adulthood, Jimmy.
Yeah. How did that just happen to
me? You've arrived.
Welcome to the first part of your midlife, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to happen to everybody. Yeah. One of the things was like we talked about earlier was like changing, the different systems you bring into your shop, and you're trying to help people and you see the changes and you see the power of moving forward, but it almost feels like one step forward and two steps back a lot of the time, And one of the things like with what you were saying, David, about coaching was like with your employees and like so you don't run an automotive shop, right? But you're very automotive specific with what you do.
Correct.
Right, but you understand the value of coaching. So that's one of those things that's like the aha moment as well. It's like, well, wait a second here. You understand that, but you don't really necessarily need to be automotive specific. But you have employees that you need to coach and you need to lead. And so, that's one of the examples there. It's like,
I also practice what I preach. So
who's your coach, David?
I have a coach. I have a business coach. And there are actually a number of people from the industry that I lean on heavily as mentors. So I go to them when I have, a challenge. I've got a business issue. I've got an employee challenge. Challenges abound, right? So for guidance and direction, I have mentors that I call on, and then I have a business coach who's my coach. And the things that I've learned because of the industry that I serve, I apply in my business. So I do call reviews. I do call coaching. I really run a service and technology organization, but I've seen it work. And because I've seen it work, I realize that there's an opportunity to apply what works so well in the automotive industry among the independent, the high-performing independent automotive repair shop owners that I work with. I can apply that in my business. So there's a way to go about doing that. And one thing, as you were talking, Parker, I think understanding any type of training or coaching we're doing is, do we have a good understanding of our end game? What are we going to try to accomplish in this? And what you realized is you got to send your person there. Like, you can't go and then bring back the excitement and give them a download in 15 minutes, right? They got to go sit in the 4-hour workshop.
They got to experience
They got to experience it. So showing up is super important. And with that comes this realization that in order to be effective in the coaching and the learning and that training process, we need to show up. We need to understand what we're going to want to, try to accomplish through this process, and then track and measure against that. And I see that consistently in the industry, that there are these measurements that we call them different things. KPI is a common term that's used, key performance indicators. How are we tracking? But where do we start? What is current state? Where am I today? Where am I today as an owner? Where are my people today as employees, whether they're advisors or technicians, managers? And then, so what's the current state? And then how are we measuring? So where do we want to go? And then how are we going to get there? So we're going to do call reviews and listen to phone calls and do call coaching. We're going to go to these training sessions, and they abound across the country. And at the end of the year, we're going to be in a better place than we were at the beginning of the year. And this is what that looks like. So knowledge and skill both develop, capability, confidence, and competence both develop. And
you have to measure it.
You can measure it. Yep. And then, so what does it mean? What's in it for me? The paycheck. Because we use the analogy, all ships rise with the tide, right? So as everybody participates in this and everybody's doing their part and everybody's doing better, the water level is going to rise, and all ships that are in the harbor are going up with that. So how do we get to participate? Well, we get to,
help everybody we can.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of like drinking the Kool-Aid in that, right? Right, right, like you kind of got to buy into the process, even if there's nothing really in it for you, right? And I think that's the nuance between like us coming here and being absorbed in the process, and then like going back and trying to force the Kool-Aid down their throat, right? Like,
correct.
You can't, right? Like, there's a nuance there, and a little bit of it is like, right? Like a little bit is like a little bit of that nuance that we just can't put our finger on exactly why we're doing it with this company or with that, right? And one of the things, like when it comes to coaching, is that, right? Like a lot of the industry coaches, like that's what it kind of is. It comes down to like, did you drink enough of the Kool-Aid to be like involved in the process? And I know that probably comes across a little rash, but I mean, it is. And I hear it a lot in like the Facebook groups. Why should I involve myself in a coaching process, right? And a lot of it is like the camaraderie. And I've heard from other, shop owners that I've talked to, it's like they just don't have anybody. Like they don't have anybody to talk to but their wife, and their wife's sick of hearing about the shop, right? And so sometimes they just need to be involved with someone with the same problems that they have, right? And it's like, but is that all there is to it? And it's like really difficult when I hear these things, like, why would I spend X amount of dollars every month in a coaching program, right? Like, what am I getting out of it? And you talk, well, they're going to go over your numbers and they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. Well, I can just have an accountant do that for me. Yeah, sure. So there's like, I don't know. It's tough to put your finger on, but I wanted to get your take on like what you think that might be to get someone involved in that process.
Absolutely. I know, in this last year, another thing that kind of came to light, working my manager, Daniel at Branch Automotive, we were talking about, when we're looking at the performance of an employee, or if there's an issue in a process, or, some kind of breakdown, something that we want to see improvement on. And we're looking at our KPIs and measuring things, and gosh, this just isn't going the way I want it to. And this person needs to be doing this or that. And we realize one of the neatest things is that when we come into those situations, we now automatically stop and look at ourselves. How have I, helped this individual achieve, like, have I communicated their expectations, goals, why this is important, how it's going to benefit them and the company and the customer. And we really have challenged ourselves to look within. How can we lift our employees up and help them do a better job through expectations and communication and so forth. And that's just, this is kind of like what David said, when you help everybody to rise up, everybody wins in that situation.
So that's the frustrating part. And this might strike a chord with some listening is, you pay someone for a job. So the expectation for you as the boss, right, or the owner is that you're just going to do the job, right? And it's like, we came from a spot of being a technician and turned into a shop, and we did all this work, and there was no pat on the back, right? Like, we did it all for us. And so it's a little frustrating when you have, say, technicians or advisors or whoever's working for you just not want to do the job that they're paid to do. And then you got to take a step back and be like, well, hold on a second. How do I help you, right? Like, other than the paycheck, right? And I get it. Like, I'm totally for having the right culture fit and making sure that you give them their whatever participation trophies and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not like against it, right? It's a jokeable, like, we can have a good laugh over it, but like, honestly, I do want to make sure that we're taking guys out to dinner, we're taking care of their wife, like, hey, here's a spa package for you and your wife to go out on the weekend. Like, I love doing stuff like that for the guys there, but it's frustrating in the day-to-day process when you're in the middle of everything and you got to, like, just how you just calmly said, we just got to take a step back and look at us. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of people that are wired like some of us are that, put the job in front of me and I know I'm going to make some money for doing it, and that's all I needed to hear. Right. People get their value or their bucket filled from different ways, and yes, we can't pull motivation out of them. We have to learn even our employees and how to communicate with them and make them understand that we appreciate them and want them to succeed so that everything else falls in line.
Yeah.
These are some of the things that can be gleaned from the coaching process as well, right? Personal development.
Oh,
yeah.
So, and that you were asking the question about really kind of the why. So maybe one of your listeners hasn't done coaching, is wondering what's the value, what's in it for me, why would I bother doing something like that? Well, fundamentally, in an effective coaching environment, you're interacting with a coach and probably others and peers who have been through most all circumstances before. So if I don't have anybody that I can call on that's in the industry or well versed in the industry or peers of mine, then I'm 100% by myself in everything and anything that I deal with, right? But if I have people that I can go and whether it's commiseration or just learning, right, and talking about our businesses, I begin to understand that they've been through stuff before. They've been through tax issues. They've been through employment issues. They've been through, feast and famine when it comes to recruiting. All of these things, different technologies. So other people have had these experiences, and it doesn't mean that it's identical, but it's similar. So now we can draw this parallel, and I don't have to learn it 100% by myself for the first time.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, for me, being I'm still a client in a gear performance group at the Institute, and there's 15 other shop owners in my group that none of us feel like we're any different than the other, regardless of what our sales volume or, we come together knowing that we've all faced the same struggles at one time or another. So you have a group of peers that really understand anything and everything you're experiencing in the automotive business. And everybody's had their different experiences that they can share. So you may come across a challenge that you're having, and there's 4 other people in that group that have tried 4 different, approaches to that same challenge. And there's, a good chance you're going to find some alignment with one of those people, and it's going to help you have some ideas how to solve your challenge and move forward. And I think that camaraderie and resource of other shop owners to share with is one of the biggest values in that type of coaching.
And then over time that begins to change you've probably been able to participate or experience that. I've seen many other, I have experienced that, the way that I've changed, the way that I deal with challenges, the way that I deal with frustration or issues, taking that step back first. But that happens over time. So as you go through this process and you learn and develop,
it's growth.
You're taking a lot initially, I think, as you're developing, and then the trust begins, and you understand the value. And now I begin to change because I realize that in a lot of cases, my best effort gets me to the place I am in life. So if I can lean on somebody else and glean from their experience, now I have a different perspective. So I begin to change some of the way that I deal with employees, the way that I deal with customers, the way that I deal with people in my daily.
And you feel so good about that learning and overcoming some of those challenges, the success that you might have just mentally over some of that stuff, that it feels good to then share it or be available to your peers that you're working with. So again, being in a coaching situation, whether it's with a one-on-one or a group of people, a lot of good stuff.
I think one of the things too is like the vetting process, right? And this is another one that kind of tripped me up a little bit. So there's a lot of ill advice, right? You go on Google, you go on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or whatever, right? Like we've all seen them.
Everyone
right?
has an opinion.
Oh my God, right? And so, but then so you're like, well, this is just some random on Facebook, right? So I think the important thing is to learn who the people are, learn what shop they have, and then you can decide whether you want to take their advice or not, right? But my point is, the difference between those people on the Facebook forum and a quote-unquote coach, well, it's just because a company assigned someone as a coach. It's really no different than just some random on Facebook, right? Like if you take a step back and look and say, well, who's this company that's assigning this facilitator, right? Because there's plenty of companies out there that have facilitators that really are no better than that guy that's on some Facebook forum. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I would hope they would have some decent level of
you would hope
training.
so, but it's still like one of those things that's in the air. So you got to really take your time and make sure it aligns with who you are. And one of the things I see a lot, and you've probably read it too, is like, who should I use? And it's like such like what? I don't know.
Yeah,
and we were just having that conversation before we got on here, right? Like sometimes you just need to kind of feel around and see who else you can find and if those values fit with your core. But if you don't even have somewhere to start, because that's the thing about ill advice. Like if you don't know, you don't know, right? And so if you're taking advice from someone and someone says, "Oh, you had an employee show up 5 minutes late for work," fire him right away, right now. Like that's bullshit. But like I'm okay with that. Like if you need to show up a few minutes later every once in a while, like you got to do that's fine.
I read that
right?
same post. Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean though? So it's like,
yeah.
and if you're just an ignorant, for lack of better terms, shop owner, you're just going to take that verbatim, right, and run with it. But if you can deal with someone with a little bit of experience, right, Parker's going to be like, hey, wait a second here. This guy's probably got something going on with his family. Maybe you should have a conversation with him first.
Yeah, before you react, you ought to do a little investigating. And
it's a great example. I had an issue come up once, and it really, really made me angry. I was ready to cause problems, right? And I asked one of my mentors, one of the guys that I call on, and he said, okay, well, you have one opportunity. I mean, this is a very specific example, right? But he said, you have one opportunity to ask this guy what he's thinking before you lay into him. Like, hey, just help me understand what you were thinking when you made this decision. I have one opportunity to do that. If I start in, and this is how it impacts and all of this type of stuff, it completely shuts that down. That's the value of a coach. That's somebody who's credible for me and trusted. So back to the question, or really the observation you had is, how do I find that coach? Instead of going out to the social media environment and saying, who should I use for coaching? Maybe the question is, what questions should I ask a coach that I'm interviewing? Because this is a principle of marketing. We always want people to be like us. So Parker, you use a particular coach, you want everybody to use that coach, right? I mean, it's just kind of human nature. Like, oh, use this one, right? I know them and whatever. But that it might not be a good mesh for everybody. So what questions should I ask my coach? If I'm considering coaching, what questions should I ask them? Not who should I use, but what questions should I ask them? And then go ask different coaches in different organizations, because there are different philosophies.
Oh, sure.
Ideally, they're going to be based, the facilitators are going to be based in credible experience. And we want to vet that out. Like, what is your experience, right? This is a question I want to ask my facilitator. I want to ask my coaching organization or my coach, right? So what are these questions that I want to ask is an important part of it, not who should I use. Opinion.
Yeah, it would be nice if you saw a little bit more of that and those types of posts like, hey, I'm having this issue and I think I need some help, or, instead of somebody saying, yeah, fire him, maybe they should say, hey, sounds like you could use some help in these types of situations, get some coaching. There's multiple companies around the country here that we're all aware of, that all have their different, values and different styles of delivery of coaching and teaching and learning. It really doesn't matter where you go, and what matters is that you find a fit. somebody that a coaching company or a coach that you enjoy how that interaction goes, that you see value, feel value in how their processes work. And sometimes you got to do some test driving.
Yeah. I find not a lot, but frequently they'll get stuck in a situation and it's like being in a bad relationship, right? And it's like, dude, you just need to leave her, man. And he's like, well, she's got all my CDs in my truck, so I can't, right? So it's like they find these really weird issues to latch on to whatever, whoever they decide to go with, right? And it's kind of unfortunate, right? In the process of all that stuff, like, well, how do you pull out of that without like hurting anybody's feelings, right? And you don't know what you don't know. So, and I find that with a lot of shop owners, they just get stuck in that rut. And they're just like right there and just like, well, that's who I use. And like you said, David's like, well, this is my experience. So this is the best fit because they work fantastic for me and they want to scream it from the top of a building until things go sideways. And then all of a sudden it's like 1-star reviews on Yelp.
Right.
And it's like, it's so polarizing, but it's such a wise statement that you said, like, it should always be about the personal experience of the person or the client, not like a relationship based because it's a business transaction and we're going to hook you up with this person because that's the best it's great questions. And it's like, what are those questions though? Right? Like, is there any advice that you could give someone that if they're looking for a life coach or an auto shop coach, like what are some things that we can direct people to make sure they're asking the right questions in that? That was a back. So you guys can see that was a back and forth, back and forth.
That was
David and I were looking at each other.
Like, are you first or my? I'll jump in. So some of the questions and kind of look at let's look at life because I think that's important. If we don't, I feel like this for myself. If I'm not grounded in my life and what I'm doing, what I want to accomplish, then the professional part, the work part of my life doesn't particularly matter anymore. So.
Absolutely.
For dealing with a coach, like say a life coach, for example, and life and business coaching go very close to one another. It's that, again, my opinion, take it for what it's worth. When I'm looking at like life coaching, which overlaps business, of course, what can you help me accomplish in the sense of like, I don't know, maybe where I'm at right now. How would you help me find out what is my current baseline so I know that what I'm building from? How would you help me figure out where I'm at today? I just feel like I wake up, I go through the grind, my wheels are spinning, and I don't feel like I got a sense of direction or purpose. How would you help me figure that out? What exercises would you conduct that we would at least know where I'm at today? And then how would you help me build a vision for the future? Vision casting is paramount. That it's a reality. Some people do that well, some people don't. So how would you help me build a vision? I think these are two important parts. Take that from personal development to business development. Ask those same two questions to a business coach versus a life coach, and you're beginning that foundation now of interviewing what's this person's credibility, what is their experience, how are they going to relate to me, and I'm going to learn a lot by asking these two things, right? How do you help me baseline where I'm at right now, and how do you help me build a vision of where I want to go?
Yeah, I think that's resonates with me a lot, and
right in the chest, huh?
Oh, totally. And if I start talking with a client, maybe a new coaching client, or even just a peer or friends, or somebody that I'm in the same group with, getting to know each other, and I'll start off by offering to tell my story, my growth through the years of going from being a technician to a shop owner and a father and a husband and all the things, related to that. And what I learned along the way, or think I've learned or am still learning. And that let them know that I'm excited to continue to learn and continue to grow, and then ask them to do the same. Like, hey, Jimmy, tell me about how you started. How'd you get into this industry? What was the fire, and what have you accomplished, or how's it been going, and where do you want to get to, where do you want to be? And we can relate because we're in the same industry, obviously. Well, we can relate as humans too, of the same mistakes we've made and growth we've had and experiences and that. So really, that's all those experiences. Gosh, that's a lot of it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like we said earlier. Like for me, it's like you just kept your head down, right? And you just like did the grind, Right? You didn't realize there was like Apex was here, SEMA was here. Like you didn't realize like there were so many people that were willing to help. You just thought you were in your isolated little box, right? And on the point of like finding the why, I think that's the hardest thing in the world. It's for me, and I think most can probably resonate to that because of all the coaching clients that I've been around. That's like one of the big things when it comes to like finding the why or like putting your vision or putting your mission statement together. My what?
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I just show up and
nobody ever asked me that question.
I fix cars and I go home. Like that's my why. Yeah. But it's so much deeper than that, and it's so difficult to like get that out of somebody.
Right.
Right. And so like asking that of like someone who's going to facilitate you as like a coach is like, man, that's putting a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, we might come into this industry because that's where we started. We were good at it. We made a paycheck and could survive, and then we get driven. To go, we're so worried about where we're headed and how we're going to succeed and grow and everything else. And that was a big one for me, in this last year or so, was to come back from one of our meetings and share with the team, hey, we're going to pay more attention to how much we love fixing trucks. And like, let's be present here, enjoying ourselves, having a good time and enjoying each other's company. And, we joke around some and, have great meetings, and, I'll break out the charcoal grill and cook steaks for everybody after we have a great week or, whatever it is. And just like, let's slow down and be present and enjoy the day to day. 'Cause that's how we got started here. And not be just so worried about, oh my gosh, 10 years from now, I have to have this amount of money saved up and this person to take over. And, these people coming in and going from the business. Like, let's be present and have a good time, enjoy ourselves. And that creates a great culture. And when everybody's happy and having fun doing what we're doing, everybody, including our customers, benefit.
Yeah. I think that just struck a chord with me because one of the, and over the last 2 years, I am not the same person that I was before I went through my coaching journey, right? Like it's night and day different. But I feel like a lot of the time you get trapped into like this numbers process, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where like no one's paying attention to like, well, is everyone at the shop like happy?
Is the customer happy?
Right. Like, oh, we know we increased our sales 40%, right? And our net's not negative anymore. So cool. But is everyone happy though? And it's like not having that check-in to say, hey man, it's like, is everyone good there? Well, no, we've had 15 different employees in the last two, I don't think we're doing the right thing somewhere, right? Like we have too much turnover and there's all these other things going on. And it's like so hyper-focused on the percentages. And that, I get it. Like 100%. That's where the money comes from. But you also come to a point like, well, there's more to this business thing than just putting money in the bank account.
Totally.
And I think you nailed it there with like, well, why are we all showing up every day? Well, for one, we all want to have a good time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we need to make a living, but let's not be so driven to oh my gosh, we got to have this kind of growth and this KPI here and that one there, and just like, slow down.
Slow down. That's a good takeaway there because that's the other way. You come into a lot of these terms like KPI, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to bring that up again. Key performance like indicators, and it's like that is so overwhelming for most that are like getting into it. That's like one more thing I need to learn that I don't really care about. But then you realize it's really not like that big of a deal as like what it sounds like, because all you're really looking for is just something that's measurable, right? Is that the idea behind a key performance indicator? Like you're just looking for something that measures. Like if you went out and did, I'm going to use an example, like you do a goodwill in your city and all of a sudden it brings a lot of business in. Would you consider that a KPI?
How do you measure that?
Yeah. But I mean, as far as like doing one action and then having an outcome out of that, right? That's basically all it is. I guess I'm trying to like dumb it down a little bit. So like,
it's just
anyone listening can understand. Like it's not like it doesn't have to be this thing that you're scared of and you stay away from. Because one of the things we tried to do was stay away from all that shit we didn't know.
It's gauges.
All the big words, right?
It's gauges.
Yeah.
That's all the KPIs are. They're gauges.
Yeah.
And really, it's to kind of help you be able to look at the different areas and identify where maybe you have something that a knob that needs a little bit of adjusting. You don't have to live to achieve a KPI. That's not what it's about. It's about using those as tools to help you tune your processes and ultimately be able to not worry about those things and just enjoy it.
What would be a really simple example that you could give as far as when you first start, like when you start taking a client and you're mentoring them, what would be like a really simple one you could share right now that would help someone understand what that is?
It's a tough decision which way to go, but a lot of times we'll talk about labor gross profit.
Okay. I was going to say parts profit, but
and that's a very common one too. But I say labor gross profit. That's the one that comes to my mind because there's so many shops that maybe have hourly employees, so they're paying them, by the clock hour, and maybe they're producing 5 or 6 hours a day, but the owner's paying them 8 hours a day to be there. So it affects your gross profit on labor if they're billing 5 and you're paying them 8 and so forth. So, but just that's, the parts too. That's a big deal. Obviously, what you're buying the part for, what your margin is on that part,
right,
and what the benchmarks in the industry are, as far as the profit on selling that part. Those are two fairly easy areas to take a look at and have huge impact on your profitability. Sure.
Yeah. The labor one's really gonna twist a lot of technicians that are that are listening right now, right?
Yeah, that's not meant to be a dig at all. It's just
no, it's not. But that's the thing. We're coming from a completely different angle, and a lot of that stuff is like rubbing salt into a wound, right? Because it's the shop is so mismanaged, right? It's so poorly managed, right?
Yeah,
and I'm taking a dig at all. Yeah, I'm taking a dig at the owners, right? Like they have and they just take that one easy fix and say, you're only billing 6 hours a day, and I'm paying you for 8, and they just latch onto that and run with it. Meanwhile, where's the parts shelf? Where's the parts intake? Where's the service advisor? Who's answering the phones? Who's dispatch? Like, right? Like,
why is their time being wasted by the processes in that building? So,
why is your buddy pulling up in the bay in the middle of the day and you guys are chatting right in the middle of the aisle, right? And the owner's out there chatting with his buddy, and it's like the technician's trying to pull a car. And so there's obviously a lot more than that.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's where it comes off as a dig, and a lot of people listening like, oh, of course, here we go again with the technicians just not doing their job. Like, but we look at it differently because we're trying to run that efficient shop, right? Or I am, and you are too, right? And we're looking at trying to break away from all the inefficiencies. And when you have, I wouldn't say dialed, I'm definitely not dialed in, but when I work really hard to keep everything clear so guys can do the job, and then they're still only producing 5 or 6 hours when there's 8 hours of work, like on a silver platter, that's where that comes up, right?
Sure.
Like, that's a little different. But in this day and age too, I'm having a really hard time, and I think 99% or 95% of the shops out there, no matter what you do, it's just in this day and age with the cars the way they are, you're just never going to see that 100% production out of an A-level technician, right? And is that a pattern that you've seen as well?
Oh, definitely. Hours are down, and again, that's not a capability problem of the technicians and so forth, but things are just so much more complex and time consuming that it's hard to measure that way.
Would you say, so one of the thoughts I was having in the last couple months was having B or C level technicians, right? And so in general, they're not going to be paid as much as, say, your A-level tech. And I hate using the ABC, but I'm going to use it just because everyone can agree upon what we're talking about here. So they're going to be paid a little bit less. If you can get them to produce 100% production by paying an A-level technician on a non-production basis, how is your thought? What's your thought about that? So if you have a guy that's getting, say, paid $45 or $50 an hour, that's maybe 30 or 40% productive, but he's just laying on grenades all day long, right? He's taking all the diags. He's making sure that the work that goes to the line techs is like simple. You're just hanging parts.
Sounds like you've been to my shop lately.
Is that the secret? I found the secret, didn't I?
I don't know that it's a secret, but we have been trying that. So I had a guy that was ready to kind of slow down a little bit. But, man, he's a walking dictionary. I mean, he has so much knowledge and experience and with the problems and stuff like that. And so, he didn't want to keep being in a production role. And we thought, gosh, we got to try to figure out a way to keep him here and keep his knowledge and his ability and all that, the jumping on the grenades and the taking the terrible, stuff that might be there for days, and helping the younger techs with diagnosis and just problem solving. And so we transitioned him to a partial salary, partial commission based on total shop hours, because by being available to all the techs, whether it's help with diagnosis, quality control, other things like that, communication, resources. Our goal is to have him help us be better overall by assisting everybody and help him succeed some by lifting up the shop rather than trying to carry it on his back.
Have you seen an improvement for the rest of the technicians in the shop?
Absolutely. Our production is definitely, it's not like, earthquake or anything like that, but we're seeing improvement, and we're definitely seeing that it's taking care of the quality control side is just invaluable. Making sure that our final product to our customers, a lot of us technicians are perfectionists. We want everything to be perfect. We want the customer to be super happy and thrilled. This thing's running awesome, better than it has in a long time, all that kind of stuff. We don't want fingerprints and, et cetera, and so forth, and we want to check that work over. Well, he's doing all those things for us, so it's helping us make sure that our product is great and that our customers are happy. And so we've definitely seen a reduction in, comebacks and little quirky things that,
and those
are
the nuances, right? Like,
yeah,
those are the beyond the KPIs. Those are beyond like the numbers, right?
It's tough because you can't really measure his performance,
right?
So that's a mental roadblock it was for me. And it was funny. My manager, he said, let's create a DVI, a digital vehicle inspection, for the quality control process. Just a small DVI. And as we're talking about it, I said, you just created a way for us to measure what he's doing.
That's amazing.
And so we created just a small inspection for him to do on all his quality control work so that we could kind of follow what's going on. Now we probably need to circle around and follow that a little bit better on our side, but time is challenging.
Yeah, to say the least, right? Yeah. One of the things too is when you talk about the mental side of it and keeping everyone engaged. So another thing when it comes to slow times, right? And there's a question I wanted to ask you was, as it comes to the slow times, the one thing we all want to do is hit the panic button, right? We want to start giving out oil changes, right? Like whatever it takes, and not that dramatic, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And I've found, or what I'm thinking is, having the techs have something to do for less is better than them just standing around waiting for that next high end job. Does that make sense? What's your take on something like that? So even if you were to give them just nothing but oil changes, to keep them busy and keep them engaged.
Are you talking in terms of trying to bring some work in?
Yeah,
customers, making a deal with a customer to try to keep your guys busy? Because we have a couple of, ways that we look at that. One is so we have slow day action plans. So when it does slow down, and we all know in this industry, if you've been in it for any period of time, there are ups and downs that are almost like clockwork. Back to school time, tax time, election right now. It's going to affect your traffic coming in the shop. And so we'll have a slow day action plan where our service advisors will go back through recommendations that were made on their specific customers. And we really try to make sure that they've had a relationship with those customers. They have time to spend building that relationship as they're helping them decide what they are or are not going to repair on their vehicle. They'll go back through and look at those recommendations, and they may say, oh, look here, Jimmy Purdy, I remember him. He's a great guy. We have a good rapport. And there was a couple of items that he decided, wasn't the right time, whether it was financially or whatever, to take care of it. But I have a good rapport with him. I'm going to call him up. And the owner has given me the green light to give him a call and say, hey, Jimmy, we're unusually slow right now. And in the interest of keeping the guys busy, if you'll schedule with us in the next 7 days, the owner's willing to offer you 10% off up to, $250 or, something like that. To try to, and be honest about it. Hey, we're kind of caught up and we'd rather have some work and offer you a deal if you'll come in within a time frame, and that would help us out and we'll help you out some. So we do a bit of that. Not necessarily offering to give away oil changes or $12 oil changes or anything like that.
How about a free diagnostic?
Yeah. And, no, we don't do any free diags, but we will do a courtesy scan for you.
I think that's huge, and you kind of rolled right past it, but that whole pulling the egotistical away from it, right? To just blatantly say, hey, we're slow?
Yeah, we're human. We need some help.
Does that not like resonate? Like, David, like, could you imagine like the shop owners that you work with? Could you imagine the majority of them just being like, oh, I'm going to call my customers and tell them that I suck and we're slow? Like, because doesn't that feel like that's what it sounds like?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Who's a little bird sitting on the shoulder chirping that in my ear, right? So,
but if you got a call from the place you have your vehicle service and they're like, hey, I'm unusually slow, how do you feel about that? Like, what is your first response of that shop calling you and telling you that?
What's interesting, because I'm on the consumer side of the equation, right? So I'm not a technician. I work in the industry, but I'm not like you guys in the industry,
Sure.
right? So I respect that as a consumer, and the first thought that I have to answer your question is, I really appreciate you thinking about me.
Mm-hmm.
So it tells me that I'm not just a customer number, and I'm not just a ticket from the time 3 months ago that I was in. They've gone into their system. They've taken the time. David needs some help with whatever was deferred, right?
Yeah, they remembered the details of your relationship, the things that
Right.
you spoke about when you were there, and it has a lot to do with your inflection. I mean, we genuinely, we want to have some work, but we understand you be doing us a favor, and we want to offer to do you a favor to help us.
The next thing that strikes me if I were to get that phone call is I'm going to get that extra bit of attention. So I'm special. I'm doing them a favor. They're doing me a favor. Now we have this thing going on together, and I'm going to get that extra attention. I'm going to feel like that much more important in this service process, right? So sure, I had some deferred service, whatever the reason was. They reached out, said we have this capacity, and we're aware of what our conversation was before. We knew that this needed to be done. We'll make a deal and this kind of thing. So now I'm feeling like, okay, I appreciate you thinking about me. And I also feel like I'm going to have that special attention that every consumer, no matter what, everybody that sits on the customer side of the kiosk, every customer always feels like, what is this experience like? And how do I feel special walking out of here? So now we've advanced that, and I feel special going in because they know me, they know my issue, they know my vehicle. We're partnering on caring for this thing. I'm getting a deal out of this, and
you walk in the door, and we're going to be like, David, thank you so much for coming down and helping us out. And the whole transaction, like your relationship is probably going to be better if that customer decides to come in and you really show them the appreciation. You just elevated the level, and I don't think I've ever looked back on one of those deals and felt that it was the wrong move, nor had that customer tried to take advantage of that later on.
Yeah, it's just the egotistical, like, we're never slow, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, right? Like like these shops, like, I'm never slow. Oh man, you're slow. I am booked 3 weeks out. Like, what's your thought?
What is wrong with me?
Yeah, well, what's the first thing that comes in your head when someone says they're always 3 weeks out, right? You need to charge more.
Yeah, it's not charging enough.
Raise your rates 2024.
Work
Oh, I made it almost through the whole damn episode without saying raise your rates.
No, don't do it. No.
I said it. I dropped the ball.
Yeah, whoops.
Oh, well.
Good.
This is a lot of stuff. Yeah, we went all over the place.
It
man.
was all over. It was
Yeah.
good
Oh
though.
my gosh.
Yeah,
Covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, I think you answered the question very well, though.
I hope
for my,
so.
For my,
I feel
for
like
my
I
cheap,
was all
for my
over.
cheap oil change.
Sorry
question.
if I was all over the place.
No, that was you took my question and like just jug it into the mud.
Yeah.
Like cheap oil changes. Watch this.
No.
Well, I appreciate you both for coming on, man. This is
Yeah,
really
great
cool.
experience.
This is great, Jimmy, and good to be here with you too, David.
Likewise, thanks guys.